I want to start by telling you something, and I want you to actually hear it, not let it slide past you the way most words do. These words were written for you, not for the crowd, not for whoever happens to be scrolling tonight, for you. And I know how that sounds. Everyone says that now. Every video, every voice fighting for your attention. So I understand if there's a part of you already pulling back, already deciding this is just one more thing that won't really speak to where you are. But hold on a moment before you turn away. Because the very fact that you almost rejected it might be the first sign that it was meant for you. My name is Walter. I've spent most of my life watching people, the chosen ones especially, the ones set apart, the ones who carry something heavy they can't quite name. And I've noticed a pattern in them that breaks my heart a little every time I see it. The ones who need a word the most are almost always the ones most ready to dismiss it. They've been disappointed too many times. They've prayed and heard silence. They've stood in front of closed doors until they stopped believing doors open at all. And so they build a wall. And they call the wall wisdom. And behind that wall, they slowly stop expecting anything good. If that's you, I'm not here to scold you for it. I understand exactly how it gets built. But I came tonight to say something to that wall. Or rather, to carry a message to the one standing behind it. Because there is a voice that has been trying to reach you for a long time, and it keeps saying the same thing, and you keep almost not hearing it. Don't reject these words. I wrote them only for you. Let me tell you what I've come to understand about the chosen ones, because it changes everything about how you read your own life. You've spent seasons believing you were behind, watching other people's doors open while yours stayed shut, watching them move forward while you felt like you were standing still in the same place, praying the same prayers, getting the same quiet in return. And somewhere in there, you started to suspect that the silence meant abandonment, that maybe you'd been forgotten, that maybe the calling you felt as a child was just a feeling, and the world had finally proven it. I want you to hear what the voice says to that. I did not awaken you to wear you down. I awakened you to lead you somewhere. The silence you mistook for abandonment was never absence. It was preparation happening underground where your eyes couldn't reach it. There's a line in Jeremiah that gets quoted so often people stop feeling it. God says, I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace and not for harm, to give you a future and a hope. And here's the thing most people miss. Those words weren't spoken to a man having a good day. They were spoken to a people in exile, carried off from their home, living in a foreign land, certain that God had walked away. It was precisely there, in the place that looked most like being forgotten, that the promise came. So when you feel most overlooked, you are standing exactly where that promise has always done its best work. A farmer doesn't dig up a seed because nothing's green after one night. He knows the real thing is happening down in the dark, where he can't see it. And I think the chosen ones get dug up too early sometimes by their own hands. They lose faith in the seed because the surface still looks like bare dirt. But the depth is where it's growing. The depth is always where it's growing. Now I want to be honest with you about something because I've lived it. The pressure you feel, the squeeze, the sense that things are tightening rather than opening, you've been reading it as a sign you took a wrong turn. I read it that way for years myself. Every time life pressed in on me, I assumed I'd missed God somewhere, made a mistake, walked off the path, and I'd freeze. I'd stop moving, terrified to take another step in case it was the wrong one. What I eventually understood is that not all pressure is correction. Sometimes the pressure is a hand on your back, pushing you out of a place you've clung to for too long. You pray for change, and then you panic at the first thing that changes. So God lets certain doors close, lets certain comforts disappear, not to punish you, to keep you from falling asleep inside a room that's too small for who you're becoming. The voice says it plainly. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for I am with you wherever you go. I do not ask you to be brave because you're strong enough on your own. I ask you to be brave because I am walking beside you across every shaking bridge. There's a woman in the scriptures most people walk right past, the widow at Zarephath. Famine everywhere. She's down to a handful of flour and a little oil, enough for one last meal before she and her son lie down to die. That's where she is when the prophet Elijah shows up and asks her to make bread for him first, before her own son. And she has to choose right there between the fear that's screaming at her and a trust that makes no sense. Here's what I want you to see. The miracle didn't happen while she sat clutching the little she had left. It happened the moment she moved. She baked the bread before her circumstances changed at all, and the jar of flour never emptied, and the jug of oil never ran dry through the whole famine. The supply didn't come before the step. It came inside the step. That's the part the chosen ones keep getting backwards. You're waiting to feel certain before you move. And the voice keeps saying clarity comes after the step, not before it. You're asking to see the whole road. You're only ever given enough light for the next bit of it. I do not ask you to see the entire road. I only ask you to put your next step into my hands. Let me tell you about the servant of Elisha, because this one undid something in me when I finally sat with it. There's a morning in the scriptures where Elisha's young servant wakes up, looks out, and sees an enemy army surrounding the whole city. Horses, chariots, soldiers, everywhere he turns. And his heart drops, because as far as he can see, it's over. There's no way out. And Elisha, calm, unbothered, prays one strange prayer. He doesn't pray for the army to leave. He prays, Lord, open his eyes that he may see. And suddenly, the young man sees what was there the entire time. The hills around them full of horses and chariots of fire. An army of heaven that dwarfed the army of earth. It had been there the whole morning. He just couldn't see it. The voice says this to you, and I want you to really take it in. Many times the problem is not that I am doing nothing. The problem is that your eyes are still covered by fear. You keep staring at the lack and forgetting to look at the protection. You keep staring at the closed door and forgetting that I open paths that never existed before. You have never walked a single day alone. Not one. The chosen ones especially are surrounded by more than they can see, but fear narrows the eyes down to only the threat, only the shortage, only the locked door. And you stand there in front of a promise like someone shivering on the doorstep of a house that's already theirs, too afraid to turn the handle. I spent a long stretch of my own life on that doorstep. I'll be honest with you. I had reasons disappointments stack up, and after enough of them, you stop knocking, you stop hoping the door opens, and you tell yourself you've simply grown realistic. What I learned, and I learned it late, is that there's a kind of caution that looks like wisdom and is actually just fear wearing better clothes. It doesn't tell you to give up. It's far too clever for that. It just whispers, wait a little longer. Begin when things are clearer. Tomorrow will be a better day to start. And because the delay feels so reasonable, so harmless, you can lose an entire season standing right in front of the open door, your soul slowly wearing out from looking ahead without ever stepping forward. What kills a fire is rarely a downpour. It's just nobody putting another piece of wood on it. The flame dies from neglect, not from attack. And when God lights something in you, a holy restlessness, a sudden clarity about what you're meant to do, He doesn't want you to admire it from a distance while time quietly cools it down. So let me say the hard, kind thing the voice keeps saying. Today, if you hear my voice, do not harden your heart. I know you think you need more time to prepare, more certainty, every doubt resolved, every feeling settled before you dare to move. But think about it. If everything were already certain, it wouldn't be faith anymore. Faith always walks with a slight tremble in its step. It keeps moving toward the light precisely because it can't yet see the whole way, and it trusts the one waiting at the end of the road. When Abraham was called, he wasn't handed a map. He left his homeland not knowing where he was going. When Moses stood at the Red Sea, the water didn't part first to reassure him. When Peter stepped out of the boat, the sea was still the sea, still moving, still deep, still impossible. Every one of them obeyed inside the uncertainty, and the power only revealed itself after they moved. And think of Esther, a young woman brought into the palace in a dangerous hour for her people. There was a moment she could have stayed silent, kept her head down, protected her own safety. Fear had a whole speech ready. Don't speak. Don't take the risk. Wait for a safer time. But Mordecai told her something that has echoed for thousands of years. Perhaps you were brought here for such a time as this. And when she stepped before the king, trembling, not knowing if it would cost her life, an entire nation was saved. I want you to sit with what that means. Sometimes, what's waiting on the other side of your obedience isn't only a blessing for you, it's life itself for people you were placed here to reach. If Esther had waited until she felt fully ready, the whole season of rescue might have passed by. The voice says it without softening it. Do not live with regret, because fear, disguised as wisdom, held your steps captive too long. Now, I need to tell you about the part that I think wounds the chosen ones more than anything else. The doors that closed, the people who left, the prayers that seemed to go nowhere. You stood in front of some of those closed doors with real hope. You believed that if you could just get through, your life would finally turn good. And when it didn't open, your heart asked why. Why would He stop me if He loves me? I've asked it myself more than once. Here's what I've come to believe, watching it play out in life, after life. Not every open door leads where your soul is meant to live. Some things look like blessings in the moment, and God sees the long road behind them, the exhaustion, the hidden wounds, the slow cost you couldn't have known to count. So He stopped you, not to take joy from you, to protect the light in you, the way a shepherd pulls a sheep back from the edge of a cliff before the sheep has any idea why it's being yanked away from what looked like good grass. Some of my protection comes disguised as a closed door, and the people, the ones you were sure were meant to stay. I won't pretend that doesn't hurt. It's one of the deepest aches there is. But some of them were only ever meant to walk a short stretch of the road with you. If they'd stayed longer, your soul would have anchored itself to to a place that couldn't hold what God put inside you. Some connections, drawn out too long, slowly drain your peace, blur your direction, and you start to lose yourself inside them without noticing. Because He knows your worth more clearly than you do, He didn't let you settle there. Look at Joseph, sold by his own brothers, carried off, falsely accused, forgotten in a prison for years. From the inside, every door in his life was slamming shut. He must have wondered if he'd been abandoned completely. And it was exactly in that dark, forgotten place that he was being shaped into the man who would one day keep an entire nation alive through famine. If he'd stayed comfortable in his father's house, he'd never have grown deep enough to carry what was coming. What God removes is not your highest good. It's only what you once thought you couldn't live without. So here's what I want to leave with you, and then I want to ask you something real. The mark is already on you. Before you knew how to speak His name, He had already set you apart. I have called you by name, He says. You are mine. That seal didn't come from your performance, and your failures can't erase it. The world will try to convince you your worth rises and falls with your wins and losses, your approval and rejection. But your value didn't begin with anyone's opinion of you. It began when He called you His. I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. You don't have to run yourself ragged to earn a place that was never taken from you. You don't have to be perfect before you move. He's not looking for a flawless servant standing perfectly still. He's looking for a heart soft enough to be led, willing enough to say one trembling yes. So let me bring it all the way back to where we started. Don't reject these words. I know the reflex. I know the wall. I know how many times you've been let down and how safe it feels to expect nothing. But the new thing doesn't begin on some perfect future day when every doubt has finally gone quiet. It begins with your yes today. Behold, I am doing a new thing. He says now it springs up. Do you not see it? The closed doors, the silent seasons, the long delay you thought was wasted, none of it was empty. It was the dark soil. It was the depth where the seed does its real growing, and what was planted in you is coming up in its appointed season. Not too early, when you couldn't have carried it. Not too late, when the beauty of the timing was gone. At the right time. His time. Now, before you go, I want to ask you to do one small thing, and it's different from just leaving a comment, so stay with me. I want you to read this message one more time. Not the whole thing. Just go back to the one line that landed hardest. You know the one. The sentence that made something in your chest tighten, or made your eyes sting, or made you want to look away. Find it. And then, down in the comments, don't write me a paragraph. Just copy that one line. The single sentence that felt like it was waiting for you specifically. That's all. One line. I'm asking for it that way on purpose. Because when you type those exact words with your own hands, something shifts. You stop being someone who heard a message and become someone who claimed one. And I read every one of them. I sit with them. Over time, those lines pile up into something strange and beautiful. A whole wall of the exact words, different chosen ones, almost rejected, and then didn't. So tell me which line was yours. Put it below. Let it be the first step you take instead of the one you talk yourself out of.